Who's going to win the AFC this season? Who's going to be the MVP of the league? Who's going to win the granddaddy of them all and take home the Super Bowl? Let's find out in our 2025 NFL Futures and Awards show. Welcome, football fans, to another edition of IDP Plus Bets. What is up, folks? I am one of your hosts here, the Degen Doc, and I'm joined by my brother in degeneracy, Mr. Derek Bennett, a.k.a. Professor Locks. How we doing tonight, brother?
Not too bad, not too bad. My Stillers got a week 1 victory in the preseason.
Correct.
I couldn't care less.
I was going to say, my Giants also joined.
Honestly, I thought it was cooler that Cam Little hit a 70-yard bomb of a kick at halftime.
Absolutely insane. All right, so pulling back the curtain a little bit, we were supposed to record this yesterday. We're recording this on Monday instead of Sunday. I indulged in some beverages on Saturday. It was a great day on a boat, whatever. So about hour 7 into my drinking journey, I pull up my phone and I see this 70-yarder. I literally tweeted it. I was like, are we fucking serious? 70. I mean, I was just like, my immediate reaction. I'm like, 70 yards? Is it midfield? I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, and to me, like, this dude has to be hitting him from at least 65 fairly consistently.
I mean, he had a leg on it, dude.
In practice. Well, I mean, that's like the perfect opportunity. Obviously, it's preseason. You're just running through, like, checking on situational shit. Right. Perfect time to try out a Hail Mary play at the end of the half, end of the game, whatever. Nope, let's just run out the field goal team. Boom.
Dude, I mean, hey, you're right. If you're going to try, 70 yards now, I'll be curious, like, how much do they trust him during the season? Because if you miss that,
it's right? At the end of the half.
Right. But I'm saying, normal game scenario. I saw people talking about, like, how much of an advantage this could potentially be, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, how are you going to take that risk? Now you're basically giving the other team the ball on your side of the field.
But I will say one thing that I did notice. This was on the kickoffs. Like, how before last year during kickoffs, like, guys would take 7 or 8 or 9 steps back, turn, take 3 or 4 this way. Like, these dudes, like, are making kickoffs like extra points now. They're taking 2 steps, bing, and putting it on the goal line every time.
Yeah, so I actually, I will get into this.
Also, why the fuck are we talking about kickers this much?
Yeah, I know. This is a lot, but I know because this is a good point. I was someone tweeting at him, like, Travion Henderson, obviously, first touch, 100-yard kick return. But I feel like we're seeing more kick returns. And, like, last year they were trying to figure it out. Now they did move the touchback now from the 30 to the 35. So that does encourage you to not just boot it through the end zone, because now you're giving up a decent amount of field position. But, I think we're going to, like, our kickoffs back. And trust me, I hate this new formation. I don't know. Like, it looks so unnatural. I hate how much they're trying to change this beautiful game.
I hate the way that it looks.
Right.
But if we can get kickoffs back, like,
dude,
one of the most exciting things, like, growing up, was watching Devin Hester do his thing as a return man.
I mean, dude, it's an electric part of the game, and it was something that's kind of been taken away from the NFL for sure. So yeah, no, that's fun. All right, before we get too deep into the banner, we are talking our last call playoff Super Bowl. We're basically going to give out all of our division winners. We'll go division winners. We'll go wild card teams. Then we'll go, all right, NFC Championship, AFC Championship game, give your champion, and then finally the Super Bowl and who's going to win it all. And then we'll go through some awards here. For those that have not checked this out yet, we have already done all 8 division previews. We have 32 team previews that are rolling out every single day, one a day there. So if you want more in-depth on one specific team or one specific division, definitely check those out on the channel. But here's a nice little final recap where we go, hey, this is who's winning, this is who's making the playoffs, Super Bowl winners, and then we'll talk MVP and stuff like that moving forward. So it should be a very fun show. Excited to do this, but we already started, so let's get back into our banter here. We're talking preseason week 1. At this point, every single team has played at least one game. Chargers and Lions have played 2 with the Hall of Fame game. what are any takeaways? I'll start. I one guy I was impressed with, who I've been skeptical of, it was
Mhm.
Shooter Sanders.
Yeah.
I think given now, I said, like, there's a lot of people who has different opinions. Now, I'm not saying that he's like that was amazing and it was anything super crazy, but
Sure.
given the circumstances of not getting a lot of first, second team reps, he's a QB4 and
Right.
he's going against the Panther starters for the first two drives. Like, he
Yep.
looked competent, was able to move the ball. Obviously the touchdowns came against the second string there, but still, even that second drive against the starters, I mean, he got them all the way down there. Probably would have led it to a field goal if it wasn't preseason. They went for it on fourth down, didn't get it. But I thought he looked pretty damn good. Uh,
Yeah.
I think, for me, it showed that he's an NFL level quarterback. But is he still a starting NFL quarterback? Like, that's something I don't think we're going to get from the preseason. I think that has to come out in the regular season.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's one of those things where, especially in the preseason, like there's always like this mix match of players going against defenses, and whether, especially with rookies, like,
Right.
have you been with the second unit the entire time, or are you mixed now in with the first team unit or third team unit? Like
Yeah.
it gets kind of confusing. And to Shadur's point, like, the dude went out and balled.
Yeah.
Like, he did what he was asked, and had a pretty good game. So good for him. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned it earlier. My boy Trevion Henderson looks like a dude taking the
Did.
opening kickoff 100 yards
Yes.
back
Yes.
to the house.
Yeah, he was all over the place for them. I mean, even Ramondre
Yeah,
didn't look bad,
yeah,
right? Like, they kind of both looked pretty good, but obviously he's the more electric guy. And
sure.
I mean, let's talk about the difference in your first touch for Travion Henderson that takes it to 100 yards, and then former, Georgia Bulldog Travis Hunter, or not Travis Hunter, excuse me,
Travis,
ETN.
Trevor Etienne.
Yeah, is it Trevor, right? Well, I'm always
Trevor Etienne.
Trevor ETN. See it. Never a Gator, only a Georgia Bulldog.
Yeah,
His first touch was a muff punt that set up the Browns nice to go ahead and help cast the Browns money line there.
yeah.
Hey man, welcome to the league. So yeah,
Well,
I
no,
think
and let's bring this guy up. A guy that we are both pretty high on. I think everybody's pretty high on. Ashton Genty getting a few carries for a whopping -1 yard. What are we thinking about the
uh,
the can't miss prospect?
right. I think that's not what 3 carries for -1. I don't. That doesn't do anything for me. I mean, if we were talking like 10 carries for 3 yards, then all right, maybe. But like, no,
Right.
that doesn't do anything for me. It's such a small sample size. Yeah, with the Raiders there, but I know people were saying like, oh, generational bust, blah blah blah. But hey, we're high on him, but we're lower than market because we kind of have that hesitancy towards rookies. So I mean, that is kind of part of it. We haven't seen
And
in the
typically
NFL.
we're kind of offensive line guys that, if you have a solid unit,
Right.
we're gonna say that your team's probably gonna be pretty solid.
Yeah. Well, a
Out
lot.
there in Vegas, we still have some skepticism. So
Yeah, a lot to be desired there. Exactly. So we'll see. Yeah, but that one I don't think we tell a lot. But just quickly, Abdul Carter, 6 snaps, dude. He's gonna be a beast, dude. Dude, he's gonna be so good. I'm excited. I'm not trying to get too hyped up. Jackson Dart
Jackson Dart looked pretty good.
looked pretty good. It just the one thing I'll say, it was so refreshing to see like competent quarterback play.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we talk about it on paper, people make jokes, but like
Yep.
Dan Jones, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito compared
Yep.
to Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart, James Winston, like, it's just a huge difference in the
Right.
Foley offense. Russ looked pretty good, and he played against the starters for Buffalo.
Yep.
Even our defense did, other than Josh Allen. Josh Allen didn't play. But so I thought the team looked competent, which
Yeah.
is for us a big step in the right
No doubt.
direction.
And before we move on to some injury related stuff, can we talk a little bit about Joey B actually taking his first ever snaps in the preseason? This is the first time
Was it
Joe
really?
Burrow has
I
taken snaps in a preseason game.
Wow.
And
So maybe they'll start
we've
off hot.
talked a couple times about how the Bengals typically start a little bit slower over those first 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
Maybe he's getting that out of his system bright and early. I think he played one drive and ended up taking him down and
I think
scoring a touchdown.
two. I think two
It may have
touchdown
been two.
drives
It
in
may
the
have, it
first
may have
because
been two. Yeah.
I didn't. Yeah, that was one of those games that weren't televised, but I was checking the box score.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I
The
mean,
Thursday night one
I think
too.
I
Yeah.
saw a stat. It was like 1-11 the past like 3 years or something like 4 years or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
dude, yeah, I mean, we know it, right? That's why they're not going to be our survivor pick in week 1.
Nope.
But like, yeah,
High expectations for Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and those
right.
guys,
I will
offensively,
say
but you're
that
right.
defense didn't really look that much improved. So we'll see on there. It is a 22 man 22 all 22 out there. So but all right, yeah, enough of preseason week 1. I think it's fun that we got some things to talk about, but I don't think either of us are huge believers that you can take so much away from the preseason.
Right.
Famously, Lions went 4-0 and then went 0-16 when the games actually counted. So
Yep.
but yeah, some big injury news and talking about some big boys here. First
Real
up,
good.
Rashawn Slater. The Chargers are a team that I think we differed on a little bit when we went and did the preview, but we did both say the offensive line is something that they don't really have to worry about. Well, not
Kinda
so
do.
fast,
Yeah.
because starting left tackle Rashawn Slater, who just signed a massive contract with a lot of guaranteed money,
Yep.
tore his patellar tendon, and
Yep.
he's going to be out for the year. Now, this injury, the recovery timeline typically around 8 to 10 months, but someone was just pouring out some new research that was coming out that like the return to play rates are a lot lower than like an ACL and such.
Mm,
So I looked through the research and it was a little bit misleading because what's the caliber of guys? Like how many of these guys are having a fully guaranteed? Like, are we willing to
sure.
wait on? Right.
Right.
But there is some question marks. Like, yes, the expectation is that he'll be ready for next season, but what level he's going to come back to, there, especially offensive linemen, they had some of the worst return to play rates at this
Yeah.
prior level. So definitely, though, what we can say is this year he's
He's
done.
done. Right.
Whether the future and maybe something we can talk about in the offseason.
Yep.
But what for this season, what do you think that does for this Chargers roster and like their outcomes expectations?
Yeah. I mean, both of us were pretty high on obviously their offensive line as well as their running game.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have, or at least had, two bookend tackles that they were set and forget.
Right.
They were going to be their starters their entire year. Joe Alt most likely moves over to the left side.
Yep. That's
You
the plan.
pull
I think Trey Pipkins is going to come
Pipkins
out
out
and
to right tackle,
tackle.
and then you fill a gap at right guard most likely. So
Right.
definitely more questions because as we've talked before, offensive line units, a lot of it's that communication and trusting who's next to you and
Right.
knowing exactly where that person's going to be. So
Yeah.
you still got a few weeks here in training camp to get that all figured out, which is, I guess, a silver lining.
Right.
But at the same point, like, you're not going to necessarily replace a guy like Rashawn
No.
Slater. I mean,
I mean,
he has the most guaranteed money to any offensive lineman ever. And then like 9-10 days later, he pops his
right.
patellar tendon and he's out for the year. So
I mean, he's a top 5 left tackle. I think that's pretty easy to say in the league, right? You can make the argument for even higher.
So.
Yeah. So brutal blow there. Another offensive line injury that's a little bit more breaking, and we don't have all the information yet. But the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles got some pretty bad, scary sights. They had a scrimmage last night over at the link, and Landon Dickerson went down. He got carted off. Now he was coming in with a knee injury previously. He was on a practice report, and then he was, said he was good enough to play. He was able to kind of like get helped off the field. He was in the front of the cart, whatever. It was a little bit mysterious of what all was going on. Got an MRI today, some meniscus damage. So as we know, look, the meniscus, we talked about it. It's kind of that cushion in between your knee there and between your bones to make sure it's not bone on bone and such.
Yep.
Now, there's 3 treatment options when we talk about meniscus injury, and it all kind of depends on severity of the tear. What's the size, what's the location, right? So you can either do, if it's not bad and it's something that doesn't need surgical intervention, then you can rehab it and take anywhere from like 4 to 6 weeks and get back, right? Yeah. Then you have a meniscectomy, which is essentially a trim of the meniscus. You have a damaged piece of meniscus. It's small enough, it's not in a place where there's good vascularity. So they're just going to cut it out. That's like 3 to 6 weeks. That's a really easy rehab, actually.
Yeah.
But
not as simple as it gets.
Right. And then you have a meniscus repair, where meniscus repair is where they can actually repair the meniscus, but it has the longest recovery timeline of 4 to 6 months that puts him like almost out for the entire season.
Yeah.
Maybe a shot to return to the playoffs. Now, it seems kind of easy based off the recovery timelines, but the issue is when you lose pieces of your meniscus, you don't get it back. So there's only so much that you can have in there. So when we're talking long-term health, especially for a younger player, typically the repair, if you're able to do it, is the way that most will go, but it does come with that almost season-ending, 4 to 6 month recovery timeline. Now, if it's something, either minor or they just can't repair it, then they might get the trim and they can be back on the field sooner. So, speaking with the Landon Dickerson, we don't have all the details yet, but I know we were talking off the show. You said he's a younger guy. Where would you be leaning, like where this is going to end up?
Yeah, I mean, he's 26 years old.
Right.
Big offensive guard where, if you don't have that extra cushion, that extra piece of stability when it comes to your meniscus, all of a sudden you're that much closer to that bone on bone, that osteoarthritis, OA, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And once we get to that point, like it's pretty challenging.
That's career
to keep that pain out of your knee. I mean, Todd Gurley had to retire, early from his career because of osteoarthritis in his knee. So with Landon Dickerson, obviously we don't know all the details as far as severity and those kind of things. But if this is a surgical, option,
right,
my guess is he gets this repaired.
Yeah,
takes that longer route. Basically, takes this year to get that surgery, rehab, recover, get all into that. And depending on how the season goes, could he come back for a playoff run potentially? At that point, I don't know if he necessarily does, because all of a sudden you've had the same offensive line all year,
right?
And I think it's like you're kind of mixing.
If you've gotten that far,
vinegar in there, if you've gotten that far with that offensive line, you might as well just run with it, literally, probably, and just bring your all-pro guard back next year.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a major injury, though. Like, as far as,
but if any team could do it, it'd be Stoutland and the Eagles, just bringing some offensive guard in and piecemealing it together.
And it helps that, but you got rid of Mekhi Becton.
Yeah.
Tyler Steen's supposed to step in there. So you're going to be dealing with a little bit of a change of the interior offensive line already.
Right.
So we'll see. But yeah, like we said, we don't have all the information, but I think the point stands that if a repair is a viable option, as much as the player may not want to do it for the, potential of missing most, if not all, of the season, long-term wise, like for your career, it's much better to go ahead and do the repair. And so we'll see. I'm sure that the city of Philadelphia will be very reasonable when the news comes out. But at this point, we don't know. So it's hard. Sometimes the repair is not even a viable option. So it is the meniscectomy, and maybe it's that. So, I don't know if we'll get all those details, but we'll probably get the answers here in a week or probably a day or two, honestly. All right. We are now going into our futures and awards here. But before we do that, I got to tell you guys about one of our great sponsors here, which is Bob Lung's Fantasy Football Consistency Guide. Get a leg up on your opponents with Bob's 10th annual edition of the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide for 2025. Purchase for a measly $15 on Amazon. Just search 2025 Fantasy Football Consistency Guide and get yours today. All right. The way we are going to do this is we are going to go through the NFC and the conference, the division winners, the wild cards, and then we'll kind of move on to who's going to win the AFC, who's going to win the NFC, and then the Super Bowl ultimately. Why don't we start with our NFC wild cards? And I will let you go first, my friend. What 3 teams are you picking to make the playoffs but not win their division?
Yeah, give me the Bears, the Packers, and the Falcons. And, I do all of the graphics work. I didn't make a graphic for this one. I also didn't put the odds for those teams in my notes here.
I'll get you.
But the Falcons looks like I'm just pulling this straight from DraftKings, are plus 155 to make the playoffs. The Bears at plus 160, and the Packers at minus 135. So.
Yeah.
Bears, Packers, Falcons, which means we got 3 teams coming from the NFC North, according to me, and then the Falcons out of the NFC South.
Yeah, and I've got one team similar. So my three representing the NFC, the Lions, the Falcons, and the Giants. My New York Football Giants.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Here we
so
go.
I know we'll save the homer case for last. So Falcons team we agree on.
Yep.
I think we like Tampa Bay there,
Yep.
but we think Michael Penix is somebody who can step up.
Yep.
They have a
Brought in some
solid
defensive
offensive line,
line options,
right?
from the draft.
They double tap safety. They double tap defensive line. It's
Yep.
an approach to, hey, we've got a problem. We know, like, we like this offense. I think that, this offense can definitely go. The defense has the question marks, but you have Drake London, you have Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, Kyle Pitts, Darnell Mooney's going to be back. So
Yeah.
I think, I think the other two teams in the division really suck. So you pick up
Completely
some
agree.
easy wins there. So
Yep.
I think that they're, one of that 6 or 7 seed that
Yep.
sneaks into the playoffs there.
And other than consistency, they were like this close from getting in last year,
Mhm.
So with a little bit more consistent quarterback play, potentially some more consistent defensive play,
Right.
I think the Falcons could definitely squeeze in there.
Yeah, they were vying for that NFC, that South spot.
South.
We had a lot of money right on the
Yeah.
Bucks to win the South last year,
Yes, we
and
did.
they just wouldn't go away. And now you don't have to deal with Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles tear, who couldn't move for anything and has finished the year with the most interceptions, but only played like 12 games or something like that. So I think it's pretty easy to make an optimistic case. Now let's spend some time on the NFC North though, because you have the Bears and Packers coming through. I have the Lions coming through.
Yep.
Obviously, I guess I would be out on the. I guess we'll save that for where. But why don't you make a case for the Bears and the Packers, and I'll speak to the Lions.
Yeah, the Packers, in as far as the NFC North goes, like there was quite a bit of turnover throughout the entire NFC North.
Mm-hmm.
Other than in Green Bay. Green Bay is basically running it back. The big loss, if I can remember right, was basically Jair Alexander. But then you bring in a hopefully wide receiver one.
Yeah,
Sounds like he
there.
plays fairly similar to Jaden Reed and Dobbs and all those dudes up there already. But you bring in a first round wide receiver. And I think it's just one of those things where I trust LaFleur to get the most out of Jordan Love. I think this is kind of one of those make or break years going into his third year starting, where will you take that next step forward? And I think I trust the Packers defense well enough. They still have all kinds of first round talent on that defense that I think they're able to get in the playoffs. I just think that somebody else ends up winning it. As far as the Bears go, they made all of the right moves in big time positions where they needed to. They bring in Ben Johnson, hopefully to wrangle in Caleb Williams. Now we'll see. He didn't play in the first preseason game, so we'll see if he actually gets on the field in the preseason. But I think that's the big question, right? I think they needed help in the offensive line. They brought it in. They spent some draft capital on bringing in All-Pro Joe Tooney,
Right. Jonah Jackson
as well. So I think the Bears took a step forward. I think the Packers are just kind of staying fairly similar.
Yeah. I will hold my comments until we get to the NFC North division winner there. But for the Lions there, who I have, obviously probably more of a shock that, for most people that maybe I don't have them winning the division. I think that there is some turnover there on the interior offensive line. Obviously, we talk about the coordinators changing over. The defense, I still have questions. They're still picking up injuries left and right there. So I think they're going to be a solid team, though. The NFC North is probably one of the more, if not the most competitive division. So I think they're going to cannibalize each other a little bit. I think they're going to, still have a respectable double-digit win season, easily be in the playoff race. But I just don't. I have another team taking them down for that division title, which we'll talk about in a second. And then, look, Lions minus 185 to make the playoffs, Falcons plus 155. The Giants plus 800 on ESPN Bet. Obviously, this is my wild card team to sneak in there, get that last spot. I think we have a situation where the quarterback play for the past couple of years has been so bad.
Yeah.
And just like at such an awful level. The offensive line has been just so terrible that even getting an average and competent offense is going to make this team look so much better. I'm surprised, not super high on Dallas. I think their defense is a mess right now between injuries. Micah Parsons still not out there. The Commanders, I think a lot broke right for them. Everyone's over there seems to be pushing 40. Their best player is not on the field, but Terry McLaurin. I think Cliff Kingsbury and their offense gets figured out a little bit. They come down to reality. The Eagles, obviously, they're losing pieces on their offensive line. The defensive line for the New York Football Giants is, I think, one of the best in football, at least top 5. I think this defense overall is going to be able to keep them in a lot of games. I'm really outside of the cornerback 2 position. I think every spot on that defense is filled great right now. So I feel really good about the defense. I think Russell Wilson and then eventually Jackson Dart are going to be able to provide some capable play. And you still have Tyrone Tracy, Cam Scadaboo, and Malik Neighbors. Like, I think those are 3 guys who can make an offense really go. So, obviously it's 8-1, right? But I do think there's a lot of teams I'm kind of fading in the NFC, and I think that there's opportunity for them to, get 10 or 9 wins and sneak into the playoffs there. All right. Let's move out of Homerville and let's so the way we'll do this is we are going to do the AFC NFC North, the AFC NFC South, and then we'll go ahead and do the West and the East and finish out there.
Do we want to cover our AFC wild cards?
While we go through it, yes, that's a good point. Yes, good point. I like when we figure it out on the fly. All right, yes, let's go. Give me your 3 AFC wild cards.
AFC, I got the Ravens.
Okay.
The Chiefs.
Wow.
And the Bengals.
Okay.
And via wild card spots.
Another 3 teams coming out of the AFC North.
3 teams
out of the North, I should say.
3 teams out of the AFC North, and the Chiefs get dethroned for the first time in 10 years?
Yeah.
As AFC West champs.
Yeah, I don't think any of these teams are surprising. I think it's surprising that they're in the wild card. Yeah. But, telling me the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Bengals, obviously all, not minus money to make the playoffs, that makes sense. But telling me the Ravens, the Chiefs, or the Bengals aren't winning their division leaves some room for excitement there. So we can save that for when we get to the AFC North and the AFC West. Why don't we just save those conversations there when we have all the cards out there? I also have the Chiefs as a wild card team.
All right.
So I'm there with you. And then I have the Steelers at plus 140 over on FanDuel to make the playoffs there. And then I have the Jets, the New York Football Jets, which is making me look like a giant New York homer. But I don't like the Jets. So, but plus 540 there over at FanDuel. So I guess I'll talk about the Jets, and then we'll talk about that AFC North and South when we get there. A lot of this has to do with their offensive line being competent. Which has for them not been a thing for a long time. And I think they can get some competent quarterback play with, as long as they keep it within the bounds of what Justin Fields can do well, which is, we know that he can target one wide receiver and have a really good connection with a guy like Garrett Wilson. And we know that he can utilize his legs and pick up wins. I mean, he was 4-2 as a starter last year for the Steelers there. I think he's going to play with a better offensive line right now. You've got the 2 backs in, Braylon Allen and Breece Hall. What is 1A, 1B, or what the split looks like is to be determined, but there is some talent on that offense. And then the defense, a defense that has kind of fallen off a little bit, but I think Aaron Glenn brings a level of physicality and discipline. You saw it in the preseason game as he's kind of chewing guys out and things like that. So, I think that division is wide open, which we'll talk a little bit more about. As far as the other teams in their division, Buffalo, we are both kind of high on. They're kind of going to be the kings there. But as far as Miami and, New England, I'm not big on either of those teams. I think they have massive questions. I don't think there's a lot to prove. So I think at the price of plus 540, give me a shot at the Jets there. All right. So before we get into our division winners and get into the AFC and Super Bowl, and then eventually our MVPs here, I got to tell you guys about another sponsor. And that is the flagship here, the IDPplus.com. If you want to talk football 24/7, 365 from all different angles, whether you just want to be a better football fan, you want to be a more profitable better, or you want to leg up in your fantasy leagues, come over to idpplus.com, join the family, grab a subscription today. We have a subscribers only Discord, and we have different levels of subscription with subscribers only content that we'll get for you. So idpplus.com, check it out today. All right, let's do our divisions. You want to start with the North?
Sure.
Okay. The big reveal here. So I'll let you go first.
So in the AFC North, give me my Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
A little bit of a homer pick there.
Right.
And then in the the NFC North, I'm sticking with the Lions to win it for a third straight year here.
Yeah. Okay. So for the AFC North, I will be sticking with the favorite, the Ravens there.
Yep.
And then my wild card kind of pick here is going to be the Chicago Bears.
Okay.
Chicago Bears coming at plus 550 over at FanDuel. The Ravens would be minus 145 on ESPN Bet.
Yep.
For you got the Steelers at 5-1 over on DraftKings, and then the Lions are plus 155 in a competitive North. So let's start with the AFC. That AFC North there. So you've got the Ravens and the Bengals not bottoming out. They're your wild card teams, right?
Correct.
You just have the Steelers,
Correct.
outperforming them there. What's the thought process behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bengals is pretty simple. I think that their offense is going to hum all year. I think they're going to have probably the best offense in the league. Right. Defensively, they're going to give up 25 to 30 points every game.
Right.
So if not more than that. So I think it's similar to last year from a Bengals standpoint, where they're going to be 9-8, potentially 10-7, and like just sneak in there with a great offense. You're not going to want to play them in the playoffs, but their defense is going to give games away. Right. So from a Ravens standpoint, that's the one that obviously is probably the bigger surprise.
Right.
I think it's just one of those things where the Steelers made a shit ton of moves, and I like the moves, and I'm a homer, and I can't put any money on the Ravens. So,
yeah.
If they're all in the wild card, I think they're going to be a good team.
Yeah.
But I think it does come down to how they play each other. And besides a late, I think it was like week 13, week 14 game in Baltimore where the Ravens just smacked them, and then again in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think that was the first time the Ravens have beat the Steelers twice in a season in like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, they play Lamar well.
They play Lamar very, very well.
Yeah.
And so I think from a defensive standpoint, the Steelers got better. Offensive standpoint, they got a lot better.
Right.
Just because they should have competent quarterback play to your point with your Giants.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's going to be one of those where they both end up 10-7, 11-6, something like that. And the Steelers end up just sneaking through to win that division.
Yeah, look, I don't think it's that crazy. I obviously have the Steelers making the playoffs. I do have the Ravens winning the division. My big thing is the Ravens are just such a good regular season team. Mm-hmm. They're just a machine. They're similar to, the Bills in this way. They just seem to produce 12, 13 win seasons all the time. I think the Steelers, I am higher on them. I think they have a really solid defense. I think the offense is just going to take a little bit with Rodgers and all the changes that they're making in DK and everything like that. I'd like for them to get a wide receiver too. I know at this point it's probably asking for a little much, but hopefully Jonnu Smith can take over that role. But yeah, no, I do like the Steelers.
I will say there's a little bit of like injury hesitancy with me on the Ravens. Like if one of those two main dudes on offense goes down in Lamar or Derrick Henry,
right?
I don't know if that offense hums as well as it did last year, and right. You got an aging Derrick Henry and in Lamar's case, he's had a little bit of an injury history and things before, and just the way that he plays, he kind of puts himself in harm's way occasionally. So
yeah, I mean that's fair. I mean, I think any team we're probably talking about if their QB1 goes down, it's all null and void. But Henry, yeah, I mean, I did like what I saw out of Keaton Mitchell, and they got Justice Hill, but obviously you really can't replace Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. So, I think that they can get it done in the regular season, but yeah, it's the playoffs where the Ravens really disappoint for me. So I think they get it done in the division. They just don't go all the way there. And then switching, or for the Bengals, for me, they didn't make the playoffs last year. I think their defense may have gotten worse, which is kind of hard to do. They still have questions on their offensive line. And you talk about a team that's an injury away. Like, if Higgins or Chase misses time, like, or Burrow, or anything like that,
I think Burrow's the big one there.
yeah, I mean, dude, they have to score 30 plus points, and they may, right? But the Ravens play them well, but the Ravens are supposed to have a really good secondary. The Steelers are supposed to now have a really good secondary, right? The Browns typically play the Bengals pretty damn well too.
Yes, they do.
So when we talk about
hence why we're not picking them week 1.
Right. Exactly. So for me, I just don't think they're not a complete team. I have a trouble picking teams that are not a complete team. They have a great offense, probably one of the best in the league, but I don't think that's enough to win you enough football games in the National Football.
So tell me this. Let's shift away from the AFC North.
Right.
How did you come to the conclusion that the Bears were gonna win the North?
Yes. So I have the Lions representing the wild card, and then I have the Bears for the North winners. Yeah, I think that it's a little bit of a swing here, but I think I really tried to fade a lot of these teams with the hype. So, I think the Panthers, I think the Patriots, the Bears were definitely one of those hype teams.
Sure.
But I like what they did from the line of scrimmage. We talked about it. They brought in Joe Tooney, Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman. They brought in Grady Jarrett, Shamar Turner, Deo Adingbo there. Like, they really made a point to build from the inside out. And they have guys on the outside, like Caleb Williams, obviously, is supposed to be number 1 pick, great prospect.
Yep.
You have DJ Moore, you have Roma Dunze, you have Luther Burton, you have Colston Loveland, you still have Cole Kmet. I mean, that's a solid group of weapons. Is it the Detroit Lions weapons? No, but it's not too far off as far as what Bren Johnson's going to be able to do there. And then we'll see, if it's Swift, Monungai, or Rashawn Johnson, who takes the step up. And then I think the defense, again, if the defensive line can get some pressure there, I think they have a decent secondary. So I just really like how this team is built. I like how they built from the inside out. So I think that, they're going against a division that's going to be tough, and you need some good line play. But as far as how I think you can mess with the Lions is if you can run the ball and bully them on the line of scrimmage, I think that's going to get you some wins in that division. So that's a little bit of the long shot there for me with the Bears, but kind of playing, ceiling case for them in that situation. I still think the Lions are going to be good. Why I ultimately left, Vikings, we didn't talk about them, but they basically have a rookie quarterback, Jordan Addison suspension. I think their offense could go a little bit, but as far as a prospect for McCarthy coming out, neither of us were super high on him. Right. I think that's asking a lot of Kevin O'Connell, even though he just did it with Sam Darnold, so you got to give him credit there. But I just ultimately, it's that the quarterback for me is just at such a lower level. And then Green Bay, I don't trust Jordan Love. I'm not a Jordan Love guy. I think that he just kind of he just puts himself in bad situations. This is a solid team, though. Like you said, I mean, Malik Willis came in and won a couple games with them, just basically running the rock.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that the Bears and Lions are the two better teams. But that was definitely, I would say, probably the North was the hardest division for me.
Yeah. No, I ended up sticking with the Lions, and my biggest hesitancy, you mentioned the offensive line, losing a couple pieces. Ragnow's obviously the big one. I mean, being an All-Pro at center. But the other typical conversation when the Lions come up is you lost both coordinators, which I think has only happened 4 times in the last like 25 or 30 years where a team has lost both coordinators.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, you lose some coaches there, but and don't get me wrong, like coaching is super, super important. Like if you don't have a good head coach, if you don't have a good offensive coordinator, I was saying fire Canada a couple years ago too. At the same point, the players have to play. Right. And I think we can look back to probably the most famous example of this when we talk about Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. One of them went on to win another Super Bowl. It wasn't the head coach. So I think, the entire culture is still there in Detroit with MCDC. Their defense was just riddled with injuries last year. Most of those guys are coming back. I think they still are the Kings of the North.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do think they're a solid team. I'm just gonna think they take a little bit of a step back, and the Bears kind of hit a little bit of their ceiling case there.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the South here. Heading down south for the NFC South. Looks like we both went with the Bucks,
Both on
but
the Bucks. Yeah.
you are on the Texans for the South, and I am on the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yep.
All right, so why don't we start with the Bucks? Because I think obviously we agree there.
Right.
Bucks coming in at plus 110 over on FanDuel to win that division there. So I'll let you start. What's the case for the Bucks?
Yeah, I'm really high on the Bucks. I think their offense is going to be one of the best in the league. You have Tristan Wirfs on the pup right now. We'll see if he ends up getting off of that. Most likely, he'll miss the first few games,
Right.
4 weeks. But at the same time, I would rather him miss the first 4 weeks and get the procedure done. Out of the way rather than trying to play through it. So going back to their offense, I think they're going to have one of the best offensive lines as soon as Tristan Wirfs back on the field.
Right.
Baker Mayfield has been really, really solid and just keeps getting better and better over the last couple of years. They have some of the best weapons outside out of any team. When you talk about Mike Evans and Ibuka and Chris Godwin, if when he gets healthy, and Jalen McMillan, and you got Bucky Irving at running back. So you got dudes all over the place on offense. Defensively, I think they do enough. I think their front seven's pretty solid. Back end has a couple of questions for me, but at the end of the day, you still have Antonio Winfield back there kind of checking things out. So, yeah, I'm pretty high on the Bucs.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm right there with you. I think that they have the clear best quarterback, the clear best weapons in this division. I'm not very high on this. Well, I'm not very high on the Panthers and the Saints, as we can just say now that, having the Falcons come out of there. But yeah, I think the Falcons still have way more question marks. They're just so much more of a complete team.
Right.
The Wirfs injury, obviously something to monitor. We still don't know exactly. He's expected to miss some time, but we don't know how much that's going to be. But the defense, they brought in Hassan Reddick, to help that pass rush. They still have Levante David. They've got Sebastian Dennis. They've got Antoine Winfield back there. They brought in the rookie out of Notre Dame, Benjamin Morrison, to help shore up some of that secondary help. So they addressed positions of concern, and I think they're just the clear best team there. Now, moving over to the AFC South, this is where we have a little bit of a debate here. So you've got the Texans at plus 110, the favorites there. I have the Jags at plus 310 over on FanDuel. All right. What's your Texans case?
Yeah, I think the Texans have the best defense in the AFC South, just to begin with.
Right.
The big question that I have is, are the offensive line issues fixed with the Texans? They brought in some dudes, and like I said, that's my biggest question. If it goes south, obviously this bet's probably going to go south too. But I am a CJ Stroud guy. I think he will take a step forward after a little bit of a down year, if you can call it that, last year. I think that their weapons are good enough, even with the injuries at running back, that they can still move the ball and really basically rely on that defense and D'Amico Ryans to keep opposing teams off the scoreboard.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on the defensive side. Their defense is solid. It's kind of hard to knock that. When you have two of the better edge rushers in Will Anderson, and is it we're not Danielle Hunter, right? Yeah. So I don't know why I was thinking Jonathan Grenard. But Danielle Hunter there. So definitely a solid defense, but it's the offense that I have major concerns about. Last year when they were struggling, Joe Mixon was able to pick that slack up and kind of work for the passing game. No Stephon Diggs, no Tank Dell likely for the year. Behind Nico Collins, I know you have Christian Kirk and a couple rookies, but there's a lot of question marks there. The offensive line, you talked about it. I mean, it's hard to really be efficient on offense if your offensive line is just a revolving door. So I'm not convinced they fixed that issue. And yeah, I'm pretty high on Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville's offense has the potential to be really good with Liam Cohen coming in. Obviously, you have Travis Hunter, you have Brian Thomas again. De'Ami Brown coming over, a couple pieces on the offensive line. They had a lot of changes, and I liked a lot of them. They picked up some guys for the defense too, especially on that back end, and Jordan Lewis and Caleb Ransall and Eric Murray there. So I think that this division is another one that I think is a bit of a mess. I think it's only a 1-team division. I don't love, I'm pretty damn low on the Titans and the Colts. So really, for me, it's a 2-team race between the Jags and the Texans.
Agreed.
I think that the Jags have a little bit more firepower with the wide receivers. I think that they, can sure some things up on defense. I like their front seven. I like the Jags front seven. I mean, they got a lot of first round picks between Hines Allen there, Trevon Walker. Like, they have a lot of dudes. So if their offense, can put up a decent amount of points, like I think they can outscore the Texans, and I think that's going to be their path to victory. Now, they are the underdogs, so we got to kind of see how all this change translates. But right now, I can trust their offensive line and their offense more. And I think their front seven can do enough against the bad Texans O-line to kind of get that done. So that's where I ultimately went there. But I think it definitely is between those two teams. The Colts and Titans, in my opinion, are not serious organizations at this point.
The other part to this is the Jags absolutely suck against the Texans.
Okay, well, fair point. But hey, trends are meant to be broken. Trends are meant to be broken, and
I thought that was one of our rules, that the Texans just kind of own the Jags.
The AFC South flow chart. Yeah. Look, man, new rules, new time. I can't get behind that offensive line and running back room right now, so it's just hard for me to pull the Texans trigger as the favorites there. But fair point. I mean, hey, like I said, I think it's between those two teams. All right, let's head out east and let's talk about. Well, I guess we'll have
we're on the same page here.
Yeah, it looks like we both got Buffalo coming out of the AFC East, and unfortunately, the Eagles coming out of the NFC East. Let's start with Buffalo. Let's start happy here. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know if this is really much of a surprise. I think between the two, there were two of the heavier favorites.
Yeah, minus 290 at FanDuel there for Buffalo, and the Eagles minus 130 at DraftKings. So, but yeah, we'll start with the Bills again. We probably don't have to spend a ton of time here, but
yeah.
I mean, the Bills really just complete team running it back. Like, they're just far and above everybody else in that division. I did have the Jets coming out of there. I think there's a real good chance Miami's the worst team in the league. I've already played it at 20-1. Their offensive line is atrocious. Their defense, probably the worst secondary room I've ever seen. The tight end room is a joke. You have New England with a ton of moving pieces. I'm not convinced their offensive line's fixed. I don't know why everybody's jumping on this. I've liked some of the things I saw at Drake May. I don't think they're a playoff team. And I talked about, the Jets being able to take advantage of some weaker line play and get in there. But I don't think anyone's challenging the Bills here. I think we both like them to get to 13 wins this season at some plus money. Like, this is just a complete team. They've got the best quarterback. They really have their eyes set on a AFC championship, Super Bowl.
Yep.
That's kind of an easy one there. Why don't you give the case for the Eagles? Because I'm not saying anything nice about them.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys suck. We both think that the Commanders are going to take a step back.
Right.
I don't fully trust Russell Wilson and the New York Football Giants.
Probably a sane thing to say.
They've made some good moves forward, but they're not there yet. Right. And the Eagles, even if Landon Dickerson misses the entire season, they're just by far the best, most complete team in the NFC East.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously we'll see what happens with Dickerson, because if this happens, maybe it's a little bit more pause. Maybe we get a little bit better of a price. But honestly, at minus 130, assuming like this was pre-Dickerson's injury news, I think it's probably a great value. Yeah. As much as it pains me to say as a Giants fan, like the Cowboys defense is going to be a mess.
Yeah.
And they're already fighting.
The one hesitancy to this is like in this division, nobody wins it twice in a row. That's a good point. That's the one thing. That's a
good point. Because on paper, they have a better roster by any team in this division by a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they're beat the shit out of the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
And although they've had plenty of roster turnover, especially on the defensive side of the ball,
right.
they
They
still
draft
got
so damn
dudes at
well.
every level
Yeah.
on defense.
Yeah.
Offensively, you know how good it's supposed to be,
Right.
but
Barring major injuries, which hey, we may have one, but barring major injuries, I think the Eagles, it's hard to get them off that line. So,
yeah.
all right, no more nice about the Eagles. We're going to the West. We're wrapping this up here. All right.
Okay.
So you got some agreement here. Probably going to be a little bit of a surprise there.
Yeah.
AFC West, we got the Denver Broncos, not the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you've got the Arizona Cardinals. I've
Yep.
got the Los Angeles Rams. That's going to be a fun division to discuss. But we'll
Yeah.
start with the AFC West. So we have now dethroned a team that's won it, what, 10 years? Or
8,
like,
9, 10 years, something
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Broncos coming in at plus 330 on DraftKings when we talked about it.
Yeah.
So what's the case?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the Broncos are ascending at
Yeah.
a rapid rate at this
Yep.
point. Bo Nix, Sean Payton has really just completely turned Broncos kingdom on its head, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and bringing in some extra help on defense with an already pretty stout defense, bringing in Evan Ingram, drafting RJ Harvey to basically be that RB1 at least to start the season. We'll see how much of a revolving door that ends up being. But yeah, I think the Broncos are just a really solid all around team,
Yeah.
and the Chiefs. The biggest thing with them to me was like, yeah, they won what 14 games last year,
Yeah, they
13
were
games.
15-2.
Yeah, 15-2. I think like 10 of their 15 wins were by
One
one
score.
score.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're a dominant team.
Right.
One of their losses was to Denver in the last regular season game. They didn't play hardly anybody, but they beat them 30-0.
Right.
So I think it's just one of those things where like it's time that the
Yeah.
Chiefs start to get derailed. They might have a little bit of that Super Bowl hangover, and yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
time.
I'm right there with you, man. I love this Denver Broncos team. They've got two things that I think are absolutely pivotal in the National Football League. They have a really good top 5, maybe top 3 offensive line, and they have one of the best defenses in the league. I mean, this defense was nasty last year, and now they've drafted Jade Barron to help, shore that up. They brought over Trey Greenlaw and Tyler
And
Hufanga from
Hufanga.
49ers there.
Yeah.
Like, this defense, man, they're scary on paper. I like the Evan Ingram ad. You talked about RJ Harvey there, giving Sean Payton another year. Like, dude, this is I think this is a really solid ball club. Like, I understand that you're talking about Bo Nix, but even Bo Nix as a rookie, an older guy, like, he didn't have to do a ton, and he really excelled. Like, Sean Payton is going to set him up for success.
No doubt.
So, Drew Brees, great quarterback. It's not like he was the most gifted person, whether athletically, physically.
Right.
A lot of that is attributed to Sean Payton. So I really like this roster. The Chiefs, again, I think we both have them coming out of the wild card there. I don't
Right.
think.
Yeah, I think this is a tight division race, but I think
Right.
unlike past years, like Denver has enough firepower to keep up with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the Chiefs are necessarily going to score a ton.
And I don't think the Chiefs, like, I'm not going to say they don't care about the regular season, but like, they're okay, like, winning 11 games, figuring some stuff out, and then turning it on for the playoffs. Like, we've seen them do that, right? So, like, I think both these teams are 10 plus win teams, like double digit win teams.
Sure.
So I'm not super high on the Chargers, especially with the Rashawn Slater news.
Yeah.
So yeah, give me the Broncos to get this done. Now flipping over to the other side. I've got the Rams at plus 195. You've got the Cardinals at plus 450 there. So why don't you talk about your long shot there?
Yeah, I think offensively, they're kind of running it back on offense. You got Kyler, you got Trey McBride, you got Marvin Harrison, James Conner, all those guys. I think last year was inconsistency that really derailed them. And I think overall, another year, hopefully they get things rolling. A lot of this is more so I'm still fading the Rams a little bit, even on their or coming off of their NFC
West champions.
Yeah, NFC West champions conference or no division run last year.
Right.
But I think the Cardinals defensively taken a little bit of a step forward with some of the guys that they brought in, and yeah, I think that the Rams. I don't know. I just can't fully trust them.
You hate the
I
Rams.
can't. I do. I really do.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
other
look.
than Puka, I like. Give me some Puka, but
Yeah.
in the fantasy realms. But other than that, like Stafford's dealing with this back injury that
Right.
who knows what's going to end up with that. I can't trust Jimmy G to win a division. So
It's fair. That's fair. Yeah, this is definitely one of those where I.
and
This is
I think
probably,
this is the hardest division for me to pick because I thought about the Rams a little bit. I thought
right.
about the Niners. I thought,
Right.
yeah,
I don't hate the long shot here because this definitely has some variability. This is one of the takes that I could definitely see there being some egg on my face at the end of the season for this team. And it's because what you kind of mentioned. It's the age of Matthew Stafford in the back, and we talked about his disc injury, and I expect him to be good to go week one. There's huge variability in this. One big hit, one wrong thing, it could re-aggravate. He could be out. Like it is a sticky situation.
mm-hmm.
But here's what I'm gonna say: the Rams were, in my opinion, were like one or two snaps away from beating the Eagles and heading to the NFC Championship game. And that was with a defense that was 1 year younger, a very young defense, has a lot to look forward to. Now, you get Cooper Kupp out of there, you bring in Devontae Adams, you bring in a tight end, Terrence Ferguson from the draft there, and Josiah Stewart at the defensive line. Like, I think they were right there. And I think they're running it back. I love Puka Nacua there. I think they have, their top three offensive weapons in Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, and Devontae Adams are some of the best in the league, right? Up there with the Bengals there. And I think that defense is young and promising. I think the 49ers, I don't understand how they're the division favorites in this division. Their O-line was awful, and they're just running it back. Their defense is a bunch of nobodies in Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. I can't trust anyone to stay healthy on that team. Seahawks, Sam Darnold behind a bad offensive line. Good luck.
Yep.
The Cardinals, I don't hate them. I was kind of neutral on them. Really, for me, I just can't trust Kyler for the whole season. He looks great in some spurts, but man, he just continues to kind of disappoint down the stretch when in clutch there. I do think that they may have got a really good player in Will Johnson there on the corner. I can definitely see that defense taking a step forward. But for me, it comes down to Matthew Stafford versus Kyler Murray, and I'm going to take Stafford 10 out of 10 times. Assuming he's out there. So that is the one thing that's like this, and with this back thing, that is definitely the one where it's like, if Stafford, isn't able to play the majority of the season or his back is done, then yeah, obviously this is cooked.
Right.
But I'm going to go with the Rams at plus 195, almost 2-1 there. I think they're a better roster than everybody else in this division. All right, let's head on over to, let's go AFC, NFC champs, and then we'll do Super Bowl. So who do you have coming out of the AFC for the championship game?
Yeah, so in the AFC championship game, I have the Bills against a wild card team in the Ravens.
Oh.
And because of the Ravens getting in via the wild card, I had this being played in Buffalo, and therefore I have Buffalo coming out of the AFC at plus 340.
Ooh, so the Buffalo Bills finally getting it done. They've already beat the Ravens, but I mean somebody had to beat the Chiefs. So,
Yep.
I mean, in that matchup, Bills Ravens, we just saw it in Buffalo. We're gonna get that game week 1. That'd be a pretty cool, rematch there. I just got to go home field advantage there. I think those are two very, very solid rosters. Both kings of the regular season.
Yep.
And yeah, I'll trust the Buffalo home crowd to get that done. So I like that. For me, out of the AFC, I've got a little bit of a division rivalry. I'm going with the Denver Broncos taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. With Denver winning the division, that would be in Denver, in Broncos country, in Mile High there. And I have the Denver Broncos. No, I don't. I have the Chiefs. I wanted to, but I have the Chiefs winning. Patrick Mahomes. It's just Patrick Mahomes. I do think they're going to come back with a bit of a vengeance there.
Okay.
We didn't talk about it, but Josh Simmons, the left tackle, their first round pick at Ohio State. I
He's
know
a
you're a
dog.
big guy, dude. If Patrick Mahomes doesn't have to worry about his blind side, like this kid looks like a rock star,
Yeah.
and he's gonna have time to
Yeah.
let
Speaking
rock
of patellar tendon,
right. Great
stuff.
case. Yeah. Now they're saying that maybe it wasn't a full tear, maybe it was partial. Whatever. Kid looks amazing.
Yeah, he's a stud.
If he can solidify, especially at this point, during the season, it might be a little rocky, but you got Rashee Rice, you got Xavier Worthy, you got Hollywood Brown, you still have Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
I think that Mahomes ultimately, as much as I wanted the Broncos at 18-1 to win the AFC, I will go with the Chiefs at plus 425 to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Now back to you for the NFC. What's your NFC conference championship game?
Yeah, I got the Lions going up against the Tampa Bay Bucks, and I got the Bucks taking care of Detroit
Ooh.
at 15-1. So I have a Bucks Bills Super Bowl.
That'd be a fun Super Bowl. Yeah, that'd be a fun Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I will have the Tampa Bay Bucks as well, heading out to Los Angeles to play the Los Angeles Rams there.
Okay.
So I am going to be taking the Rams at 11-1 to come out of the NFC, and I have a Rams and Chiefs Super Bowl. For me, again, it comes down to I trust the Rams defense a little bit more than Bucks. I see those teams as very similar teams, though. A lot of offensive firepower, good quarterback play. For me, I think the Rams defense is a little bit better than the Bucks. Would love to see Baker make it to the Super Bowl, but I do have the Rams and the Chiefs. All right, my friend, who is your Super Bowl winner for the 2025 NFL season?
So I got the Bills and Bucks playing in Levi's Stadium out there in San Francisco, and I have the Buffalo Bills taking care of business. One of the favorites at 6-1.
We went through all these long shots, and then the favorite.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the Bills are at 6-1. Would I be putting some money on the Bucks to win at 28-1? Definitely. But yeah, I think this is time for the Bills to finally get it done and bring a Super Bowl back to Buffalo.
Yeah, no, I hard to argue with you. Again, great team, great roster. They just need to get it done in the playoffs.
Yep.
Josh Allen, I mean, he can be Superman, so I think that's hard to argue there. Yeah, so for me, Rams, Chiefs, give me Stafford to get it done one last time. Dude, I just telling you, man, they were a couple snaps away from beating the Eagles. I think they're a solid team. It's tough, but look, he did it once. I think he kind of gets a little bit of a farewell tour. Again, this is a team that I can absolutely like. Stafford gets injured week 3, and this is a complete mess. And I'll put my hand up.
Yeah.
Look, it's 22-1, so I will be playing. But like you, I'm going to play both. So I'll probably put a little bit on the Chiefs at plus 850, and then on the Rams at 22-1 there. So both kind of had a long shot make it, and then going up against a pretty decent favorite. So yeah, I think we'd be foolish to not play both of those cases there.
No doubt.
But that's how we see the 2025 NFL season shaking out. We are going to wrap this up with a couple awards and then get on out of here. But before we do that, I got to tell you guys about Fast Draft Fantasy. We can't talk fantasy football without talking Fast Draft Fantasy. It's in the name, folks. Start drafting faster today. Nobody likes sitting there waiting, wasting your precious time for other people to be on the clock. These are quick 20 seconds on the clock, all drafts under 10 minutes, and we'll make this deal a little bit sweeter. Use promo code plus DGenDoc, get up to a $50 deposit match. Very simple. Download Fast Draft Fantasy, use the promo code plus DGenDoc, deposit $50, and boom, get $50 right away. All right, so we are now heading to, we talked about our playoff format. We talked about our Super Bowl winners. Now we're going to the awards market. All these odds are going to be via DraftKings here.
Yep.
We've got MVP, Offensive Player of the Year. You've got Offensive Rookie. I've got a Defensive Player of the Year. So we each got 3 plays here.
Yep.
I will let you start us off here. What do we got?
Here we go. So I think, I'm a big baseball fan, right? And for years, when it came down to a specific award, that being the Cy Young Award, the Best Pitcher Award, it has to go to a pitcher that has a shit ton of wins.
Right.
But at the same point, like, your overall record doesn't necessarily have anything to do with how you play as a
Right.
pitcher. Joe Burrow put up numbers that should have won the MVP last year. His
Okay.
defense just sucks.
Correct.
I think it's just his time. I think last year it was Josh Allen getting that MVP over Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson.
Right.
It kind of gives it that Michael
Now
Jordan
they've got
kind of,
one.
yeah,
Lamar and Josh
exactly.
Allen.
I think
Mahomes
it's
has
Joe
one.
Burrow's chance. Same
Okay.
thing with the offensive player of the year. I got Jamar Chase winning that. If Joe Burrow is going to have a hell of a year, Jamar Chase is going to as well. So I think it's
That
going to be a
makes sense.
Batman Robin situation, and one's going to take the MVP, one's going to take the offensive player of the year award.
Yeah. So you've got Burrow at 6-1 to be the MVP. You've got
And then
Jamar
Chase
Chase.
at 9 plus 950.
Love it. All right, now your 2 Rookie of the Years here.
I got
Going
2
back.
Rookie of the Year candidates. One being Trevion Henderson at 20-1.
Love you.
And
Your
the other
birthday.
one being RJ Harvey at 25-1.
Okay, some longer shots. Well, I like the double tap here and the long. All right, what do we got?
Yeah, so I think Trevion Henderson might end up being the New England Patriots offense when it's all said and done. Like, yes, Drake May is there. They got Hunter Henry. They got Stephon Diggs. We'll see what we get out of the passing game. But if this offensive line is as good as people say that it is,
right?
Trevion Henderson is one of the more explosive backs as soon as he steps into the NFL.
Right.
He could end up having a hell of a rookie campaign.
Yeah.
And to our points earlier, if we think that the Broncos are going to have a pretty good year, RJ Harvey might have himself a decent year here too.
Right.
So if we have kind of an upset of the Kansas City Chiefs, we get this narrative going. All of a sudden, the Broncos are a hell of a team. RJ Harvey, starting running back, runs for 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns.
Yeah,
and he's the offensive rookie of the year.
No, I like both those cases. Obviously G&T, Ashton DC with the Raiders, Martin Hampton, and Cam Ward are your kind of favorites there, right?
Yep.
But I think these are 2 guys that are going to play a lot of significant snaps on 2 teams that have playoff potential. We're not maybe as high on the Patriots, but again, we just saw what Trevion Henderson could do, whether it's in the return game, out of the backfield, running, rushing, whatever. And then RJ Harvey, if we think the Broncos are going to be this good, he's going to have the touchdown opportunity, and there's going to be a lot of situations where they're playing with the lead and running the ball. So I'm not mad at any of those. You love your Bengals there, though, so we'll see there. But I think that's fair. I think it's very big a narrative base. These awards I don't ever go too crazy on my award bets because I don't like trusting my money with other people's decisions. Right. But you have to have the narrative, and if the Bengals do make the playoffs, and it's going to be because of their offense. So they could put up, both these guys can put up an insane year. So I think that's very, very reasonable. All right. For my awards for the 2025 NFL season, got Baker Mayfield at 25-1 for the MVP. I've got 2 shots at the offensive player of the year. Puka Nacua, Malik Neighbors. Puka Nacua at 16-1, Neighbors at 30-1. And for the defensive player of the year, give me Max Crosby at 13-1. So, look, I think we understand that MVP is essentially a quarterback award for a team that, it has a decent amount of wins. It's definitely a playoff team, if not a 1 or 2 seed. I think that, the NFC, I think it's a little bit vulnerable right now, as far as the quarterbacks. It's probably Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, maybe Stafford. Like, there's not a lot of consistency where the Mahomes, the Burrows, whatever. I think at this price, I think, Baker Mayfield, I think he could be a top 3, if not top quarterback in the NFC. I think that team can rack up a ton of wins to make him kind of inflate his kind of status there in a very weak division. At 25-1, I love the shot there. He's a guy who's put up back-to-back 4,000-yard seasons. I think he had 40-plus touchdowns last year. Like, his weapons are electric. So I love Baker here in this spot. I think 25-1 is a great price. Offensive player of the year, I talked about Puka Nacua, the Rams. If I think they're going to have this run, Puka Nacua, we saw Stafford, what he did to Cooper Kupp when he got on the Triple Crown there. He obviously, now you have Devontae Adams, who's going to take some of that attention away. Think Nakua is going to do things in a lot of different ways. He's a tough physical runner. And then Malik Neighbors, I know it's a little bit of a homer play, but the dude from a targets, a yards, like everything in the offense is going to run through Malik Neighbors. He could have 150 catches and 12 touchdowns. Like the dude is just going to get all the opportunity in the world, whether that's garbage time or whether that's hopefully for my mental sanity, meaningful snaps. But he's got better quarterback play, and I think he's ascending to one of those top 2-3 wide receivers in the league. So both younger wide receivers that I think are ready to take that next step. There. And then defensive player of the year, Max Crosby, 13-1. He's been a guy who's been close to this. It's usually going to be an edge rusher, someone big name, a lot of sacks, right? They've kind of flipped back and forth between TJ Watt, Myles Garrett. You probably argue that they could get every year. As much as I love Trey Hendrickson, he doesn't have the name. They're not going to give it to him. He led the league, last year and wasn't even in the conversation. So Max Crosby is a guy that, especially if Pete Carroll can get this defense going with those defensive backs, create some more sack opportunities there. I think Max Crosby is someone that could step up there at 13-1. So that's how I see these awards shaking out. I like playing a little bit more of the long shots because it can really be a crapshoot, especially when you got a bunch of old people just voting on this. So, all right, man, we did it. We walked through our 2025 NFL futures and awards predictions here. Fun episode. Like we said, we were kind of hitting the wave tops here, a little bit surface level because we don't want to have a 3-hour show. But we also went in depth on every single division and every single team. So definitely check that out if you want to see where we're at on all these different divisions and teams there. What do you got for the people before we get out of here?
Yeah, from a bets standpoint over here on IDP Plus, coming up soon, we'll have a college football preview and futures episode. I'll be probably talking a little bit of Survivor that we've talked about a couple times on this show. Right. But then we'll still be doing some stuff over on the fantasy realms. We'll be doing some draft strategy stuff. We might do a best ball draft. We'll probably do some bounce back we're doing our
we're getting our guys.
My
fades. We're planting our flag there in the fantasy realm. So we've got
all kinds of stuff coming out.
A lot for you guys. Like we said, if you want a deep dive division teams, those are already out there. But yeah, we'll be hitting the my guys, my fades in the fantasy realm, and then getting to college. We will be doing a college football show this year. So
that's right.
We'll kind of, as we get this schedule hammered out, we'll kind of present our weekly schedule for the year. What it's going to look like, what shows and what lives we're going to be doing. But a lot of exciting things planned. Hey, one of the reasons we get to do this is because of the love and support you guys have already shown. So if you're at this point, a like, a comment, a subscribe, it does mean a lot to us as a newer channel. We are approaching 1K subscribers pretty rapidly at this offseason. So we'd love to get there, and we appreciate it. But hey, anything as far as any content you want to see, let us know. Other than that, my friends, from the Degen Doc and Professor Locks here from IDP Plus Bets, we are out of here.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.